Welcome to another episode of China Update, where I provide you guys with the most up-to-date political, economic and geostrategic analysis on the world's number 2 economy. My name is Tony. Let's jump in.
Okay, happy Tuesday everybody. Fortunately, I have landed. I am now back home in New Zealand. It was a bit of a wait at the international airport on this end. Today's episode has been put together and recorded at the airport, so my apologies if there are periods where the sound quality is particularly bad. I will try to avoid that as much as possible in the editing, and today's episode may be a little shorter than usual, but there are several very important developments, particularly on the economic side, that we need to touch on. So without any further ado, let's jump in. And like I said, first up, it's the Chinese economy. We need to briefly touch on the news that Janet Yellen and outgoing Vice Premier Liu He will meet in Davos this week. This will be the US Treasury Secretary's first face-to-face meeting with the Vice Premier, which is scheduled to happen on Wednesday, Zurich time. According to the Treasury Department in a statement, the two will, quote, exchange views on macroeconomic developments and other economic issues. End quote. The US-based Wall Street Journal reports, citing sources, that with both the export controls that are in place from the US side and the potential outbound investment restrictions, Ms. Yellen, quote, is concerned that China could retaliate against the US economy. End quote. We will need to see how the meeting goes tomorrow, and if there are any salient developments, we will cover them then. Next up for the Chinese economy, the housing crisis. According to official data published by the National Bureau of Statistics yesterday, Monday, new home prices in 70 cities, excluding state-subsidized housing, declined 0.25% in December month-on-month, the 16th month of decline. For the full year, prices dropped 2.3%. This is rather modest considering the nature of the crisis, but we remember that through most of 2022, Beijing had sent a directive to local governments to ensure that prices did not drop, and as such there were de facto price floors in place. Existing home prices dropped 0.48% in December. This is larger than the 0.44% decline a month earlier in November. We remember that Beijing unveiled a sweeping plan to revive the housing industry earlier in Q4, so this sustained home price decline demonstrates, as we anticipated, that the measures are not going far enough on the demand side to revive confidence. Though it's difficult to know how much of the demand was chilled, first by zero COVID, then by the sudden policy U-turn. Quote, struggling property developers got to breathe some fresh air temporarily after Chinese authorities made efforts to ease their liquidity pressure, but the only path lifting them out of the current crisis is a revival of sales. End quote. A recent China Index Holdings survey of prospective buyers in 100 major cities is pessimistic on this point, with the report forecasting that home prices will continue to decline in 2023. And while we're here on the housing market, China Real Estate Information Corp has published a new survey of 290 housing projects, finding that 62, only about 1/5, had restarted full construction by the end of 2022. This also demonstrates that the People's Bank of China's $30 billion re-lending program and other measures to inject liquidity into stalled projects specifically has seen limited success. We remember that Beijing policymakers were particularly concerned with stalled projects, with some projects representing up to thousands of units, because of the effect that these stalled projects were having on the so-called mortgage boycott crisis. This was of particular concern to Beijing policymakers because of the heightened risk of systemic financial crisis. And finally, for the economy, Chinese financial media outlet Caixin writes that Guangdong, China's largest provincial economy, with 9% of the country's population, spent almost 150 billion yuan, almost $22 billion in healthcare costs alone, financing zero COVID over the past 3 years, which included mass testing and vaccination campaigns. Quote, and local government coffers bore the brunt. End quote, according to the outlet. Under China's zero COVID, local governments had to fund hardline measures chiefly with their own fiscal resources, We followed this very closely at the time, including the fiscal fallout for many local governments. According to the report published by the province's financial department, so we take these figures with a grain of salt, in 2020, Guangdong's government allocated 30 billion yuan to COVID-19 containment measures, in 2021, 45 billion yuan, and in 2022, 71 billion yuan. Next up, the Chinese electric vehicle industry. Hey guys, if you're enjoying today's episode of China Update, don't forget to hit that like button. For regular subscribers, it may be worth checking that you are still subscribed to the channel. It does seem that YouTube does periodically unsubscribe regular subscribers. I don't know why, but we just need to keep on top of that. Finally, anyone who can go that extra mile and help keep China Update sustainable, Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee links are in the description below. This is the best way to help me continue making these episodes, whether from the regular studio or from a room at an airport at the bottom of the world. As always, thank you so much everybody for the ongoing support. We received a lot of bad economic data in December and for 2022 generally, but there was at least one notable bright spot: new energy vehicles, which, for our purposes, include purely electric cars and hybrids. New data from the China Passenger Car Association shows that China shipped 6.5 million new electric vehicles in 2022, up a whopping 96.3% year-on-year. This was in part possible due to Tesla. Of all the new electric vehicles exported last year, roughly 40% were built at Tesla's Shanghai factory. The 2022 retail sales growth across the Chinese new electric vehicle market contrasted strongly with the slow growth in overall auto sales, up just 1.9%, showcasing the dual tailwinds of growing demand and subsidies that the electric vehicle sector enjoys, though these subsidies are not expected to last. In the first 11 months of 2022, Belgium, the UK and the Philippines were the three biggest importers of Chinese electric vehicles. Domestically, retail sales of new electric vehicles jumped 90% to 5.67 million, despite widespread lockdowns hitting EV production hard in the first half of 2022. By Q3 and Q4, the industry bounced back well. The China Passenger Car Association, in a report accompanying the data, predicted that China's new electric vehicle shipments will rise 31% in 2023 to 8.5 million units. Warren Buffett-backed BYD, which sold 1.87 million vehicles, 152% growth over 2021, accounted for almost 30% of China's new electric vehicle sales in 2022. But it's important to note that several high-profile actors in the increasingly crowded industry did not achieve strong sales growth. Popular new EV players like XPeng and NIO Inc., for example, missed their annual target by almost 50%. NIO suspended production for a short period in April due to the Shanghai lockdown. Zero COVID generally hit supply chains for several automakers. Quote, "Supply chains run efficiently when there is predictability in lead times and pricing of companies and the availability of these parts along with the workers to assemble them. COVID took away all that predictability from the original equipment manufacturers and suppliers." End quote. Chinese financial media outlet Yicai warns that a shortage of critical components like chips could threaten production in 2023. Indeed, the developing US-China technology war will be one of the major stories we will follow this year, a technology war that touches on many aspects of the broader Chinese economy and of course the regional and international geopolitical competition. Okay, as I record this, the National Bureau of Statistics in Beijing has just announced that in 2022, China's population officially declined. The official recognition of this massive demographic shift is a milestone in modern Chinese history. We will be unpacking this development in tomorrow's episode. But that is today's episode over. Thank you so much everybody for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are, and I will see you all tomorrow.